In this presentation, we're going to allocate expenses to the classes using our percentages, those classes including the programs of community service, education, and then the non-program classes, which are going to be kind of the admin classes and the fundraising. So we got our percentages, the 40, the 20, the 20, and the 20. We'll do this within QuickBooks Pro, QuickBooks Desktop. Here we are in our QuickBooks file. We currently have the open windows open. In order to open the open windows, you can go to the View dropdown and select the Open Windows list. Let's first take a look at our Excel sheet to see what our objective will be. So what we're going to do, note that as we've entered this information into QuickBooks, into Excel here, we've been entering by natural category. Revenue, the rent, and so on, the expenses, the normal expenses, utilities, printing, telephone, and so on and so forth. Now, what we would like to do is represent those expenses by function as well, meaning what are they used for? And that's going to be the public health education, the program, the community service program, and then the management in general. I'm going to put admin in our section in QuickBooks, and then the fundraising. So we would like to break it out by the function. And so if you were thinking about reporting this to someone like the board and you wanted to take a look at the statement of activities, the income statement type of account, it would kind of be nice then the statement of activities typically you would see broken out by those sections by function, right? Because that would be the most, you want to know the nature, which is going to be the nature of the expense. That's what we're used to seeing, utilities and the salaries expense and so on and so forth. But if you're looking at a very quick look at the activities that have happened over the time period, the easiest grouping that you can see is going to be by the function, because that's what the reason that you're spending these items on. So it's nice then to think about, well, maybe you want to first have the statement of activities broken out by what it's used for, the function, the programs, and then the management in general and the fundraising, and then have the added information, which would look something like this, like the worksheet we just looked at, which would then give that information by not only function, but also by the natural categories. Now, what's the purpose of this? In essence, if you're going to make the financial statements, you need both. And as we can see in our financial statements, we're running a profit and loss that has the classes that will be broken out. The classes, as they are broken out, will then show this information. And then we have the natural categories that will show this information. But you'll note that if you include that in the profit and loss type of report, it gets to be very tedious looking. And if you're giving this to a board of directors for a not-for-profit organization who are not familiar with looking at financial statements, and then give them something that has that many numbers on, it's more convoluted than even a for-profit type of financial statement, it could be confusing. So one way, there's a couple different ways we can organize this information then. And one is to think about, well, I'd like to give something to the board on the start off, which looks something like this. So that doesn't have as much detail that's going to be broken out, and then possibly add to it as more detail is needed. So I'm going to say, hey, here it is by the function of the program. This is basically as straightforward as you want. And then someone's going to ask, well, what are the natural categories of the expenses here? What did you actually spend the things on in terms of actual things, items? Well, then we can provide the more detail here, and then here's the more detailed schedule, which again can be overwhelming if all included in one report. Now, how are we going to do this in QuickBooks then? If we go back into QuickBooks, you'll note that if we run our profit and loss by class, reports up top, we're going to go to the profit and loss, or the company and financial, and then the profit and loss by class, changing the dates up top from 01/01/20 to 12/31/20. We're going to have basically the classes are going to be up top. And so you could see that this is going to be kind of an overwhelming type of statement in one sense, because we have the classes up top that'll give you all the information basically in one report. However, we can collapse this report as well and just give the unrestricted and restricted columns as we see here. However, we're not showing this detail in our report. We're showing the natural categories the way we have it broken out. And that's the way it has to be used here. So we're showing the natural categories, not the function. If you want the function in this report, you'd have to add it here. Now, you could actually export this to Excel and make another report which would break it out, in this format if you so choose. So just note, the bottom line is that you want to make a report that's going to be easily readable, first of all, generally to the board, and then provide more detail. In QuickBooks, this is going to be the best way typically to do it, because this can give you that more detail with a click of a button. Although it's not going to give the expenses by function down here, it will then give them in a column type of format. So you can then provide them with this worksheet and then expand this information to give more detail. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to break out this information. You recall that we put all of the expenses, and that's the main items that we need to break out here. All of the items that are in the expenses, we need to break out by the classes. And we're going to do so with the percentages that we have determined prior to this. So in that case, it's going to be the 40% for the public education, 20 for the community service, and then the admin and the fundraising. So if you set it up like this, you can basically say, hey, whoever's doing the bookkeeping, you can enter it, put it all into fundraising or even unclassified, then plan on going back in and just simply doing the adjustments to the proper categorization in accordance with 40/20/2020 in this case. So what we're going to do then is we're going to say, all right, it's all of these expenses here. We're looking at the expense area are all in the fundraising. I need to break them out in accordance with that allocation that we had there. To do that, I'm just going to double click on these items. I'm going to open them back up, and I'm going to do our allocation. Open this back up. We have our journal entry, and I need to break out the expense to the proper categorization. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open this back up, and I'm going to scroll through here and pick up the category. What we're going to do is we're going to go through here and say that this one is in the fundraising. I'm going to add the categories and then adjust the amount. So we have the full amount in the debit side here. I'm going to then say that we want depreciation expense. I'm going to break out into 4 categories. I'm not going to put the amount yet. I'll come back to that. And this one's going to be the community, which is going to be 20%. And then I'm going to go back in here, depreciation again. I'm not going to put the amount yet. And then we're going to put the admin, 20%. And then and that should be, is that 4? No, they're going to do depreciation one more time. And we're going to want to put the other one, which I've got the community in there. Let's make this a little bit larger so we could see it. That's on the 20%, 20. And then the education at the 40%. Now I'm going to go back in here and recalculate it. The credit is the one we want. I'm going to recalculate all the debits. I'm going to do this in Excel with a calculator. I'm just going to type in 4400 times 0.2, 20%, 0.2, tab. I'm going to tab through here, and then I'm going to put the same here. Here's the total amount. So I'm going to type in 4400 times 0.2, tab, 4400 times 0.2, tab, and then 4400 times 0.4, tab. It's got to be in balance, so if we messed up, it won't let us record it, hopefully. It won't. And so I'm going to say save and close, and then I'm going to repeat this process a bunch of times, right? So we're going to do this for the next one. I'm going to double click on here. We happen to pick the journal entries, which are actually, we already did this one. I'm going to close this back out. So now it's allocated properly to our percentages. We got the community service, the education, and then the fundraising and the admin. These two are under the programs and unrestricted, and they're all going to be under the unrestricted item. Okay, let's do that for all of them now. So we're going to keep going down. Here's going to be the next one, 21.6, double clicking on it, seeing the items in it, double clicking on that. Then I'm going to do the same thing. Now we happen to be going into the journal entries, which are a little kind of more confusing, but same process no matter what. And so we're going to say this is going to be the same debit provision for uncollectible. I'm going to put this on the amount of the education, let's say this time, and then provision for the uncollectible. This is going to be for the admin, and then tab, and then provision for uncollectible, and then we have the community service. There we have it. Now we're going to go back in and put the amounts. So we have the 21.6. That's going to be times the fundraising 20%. Tab. And then the 21.6, and we're going to multiply this times the 40%. Tab, 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 tab. And then the 21.6 times 0.2. Tab, 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 tab. And the 21.6 times 0.2. And then I'm going to save and close this and say yes and yes. And close this back out. And there it's broken out. Let's repeat this process again, double-clicking on the next item, double-clicking on it here. Now we see a check. This number up top is going to remain the same. We're going to break it out down below. So I'm going to make this a little bit larger again so we can see it. We're going to say printing and postage. And we're going to say then that we need the education. Actually, not the provision. We want printing. Printing. There we go. And then we want the printing and postage again. And this is going to be going to the community service. And then the printing and postage again. And this is going to be going to, which one have I meant? It's community service admin. There we have it. And then we can allocate this out. So this is going to be the numbers always up top. So I'm just going to take the 12.9 times 0.2, tab, 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 12.9 times 0.4, tab, 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 12.9 times 0.2, tab, 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 12.9 times 0.2, tab, tab, save and close. So we'll save and close, yes, yes, and then I don't want any checks. So we have that. Then I'm going to close this one back out, go to the next one. So that's allocated, double-clicking on the 35.8, double-clicking on the check. Then I'm going to go through the same process. I'm going to go through this, and I'll start it this time. I'm going to change this one to education, so it's in order of the list I have. And then rent. And then we're going to go to the community service, 20%. And then we have the admin. I'm sorry, rent again. And that's going to be going to admin. Then rent again, and that's going to be going to the fundraising. So I've changed the order a little bit, same process though. So then we're going to have the amounts always up top. So I'm going to say 35800 times 0.4, tab, 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 35800 times 0.2, tab, 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 35800 times 0.2, tab, 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 35800 times 0.2. Tab, 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 tab. And then I'm going to say save and close. Yes. Yes. Close this back out. That one's allocated. Double-clicking the salaries. Double-clicking the amount. We're doing the first one here, salaries. I'm going to keep the class first for education. Salaries expense. Then it's going to go to community services. Salaries expense. Then it's going to go to admin. Then we've got the salaries, and that's going to go to fundraising. Then we'll break out the amounts, which the amount is up top. So it's going to be the 209,460 times 0.4. Tab, 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 tab. 209,460 times 0.2. Tab, 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 tab. 209,460 times 0.2. Tab, 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 tab. 209,460 times 0.2. Tab, 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 tab. And then save and close. And that's allocated out. We have a second one in here, so let's do that again. So we'll do that with, put that one on the bottom. So now we've got this 16.8. Let's do that one here. So that one, we want to be dealing with the positive number. This is a 0 check, so we don't want to delete that 16 negative. This is I'm gonna put it to education again at the 40. And then salaries, that's gonna be to community service, salaries to admin, and then salaries to the fundraising. Then I'm gonna put the amount. This is the one we're gonna tie to, that negative number. So it's gonna be 16,800 times 0.4. Tab, 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 tab. And then 16800 times 0.2. Tab, 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 tab. 16800 times 0.2. Tab, 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 tab. 16800 times 0.2. Tab, 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 tab. No more tabs needed, but you can tab more if you want. And then we're going to save and close. And yes, That one is done. Closing out of this screen. That allocation is made. Next one, we're going to say there's 2 in here. Double clicking on this item. 500 up top. Supplies. We're going to put the first one to education. Then supplies again. Supplies. Going to the community services. Supplies. Going to the admin. And then supplies. Going to fundraising. Putting in the amount then, we're going to put the 500 times 0.4, tab, 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 500 times 0.2, tab, 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 500 times 0.2, tab, 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 500 times 0.2. And then save and close. Yes, yes. And then the next one's that 4,500, double clicking on it. Same process here. This one's a bill. So we're going to be tying to that 4,500 up top. I'll make this screen a little bit larger so we can see it. And we want this to be for education, supplies, and then we're going to have the community, then supplies, and then we're going to have the admin, supplies, and then we're going to have the fundraising. Whoop, not there. Fundraising is going to go here. That's where it goes. All right, then let's put the amount. It's going to be 4,500 times 0.4, tab, 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 4500 times, not divide, we're multiplying. Oh, now it's messed up. I'm going to do it again. I'll do it again. 4500 times 0.2, tab, 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 4500 times 0.2, tab, 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 tab. And you can just put the 900 in here instead of calculating it again, which would probably save time. So then I'm going to say save and close, and yes, and yes. And then close this back out. We get to do this 2 more times. This is good times. And then we're going to go into the 6.2. And it's a check. So we're going to put this first one is going to go to the education. Telephone is then going to go to community. Telephone is then going to go to admin. Telephone is then going to go to fundraising. The amount, 6200 times 0.4, tab, 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 6200 times 0.2, tab, 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 1240, tab, 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 1240, tab, tab. And then we're going to say save and close, yes. Close that back out. That's been allocated one more time, and then we have to stop because that's all we got. And that's going to be sad because this is driving me mad. All right, so then we're going to say this is going to be education. Utilities is going to be community. Utilities is, oh, what happened there? Okay, pause. So we're going to say utilities is going to be admin, and then utilities is going to be fundraising. Then we'll calculate this out again. 9100 times 0.4, tab, 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 tab. 9100 times 0.2, tab, 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 tab. 1820, tab, 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 tab. 1820, tab, 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 tab. You could stop tapping. I stopped tapping. And then I'm going to say save and close, and yes, and yes, and then close this back out. And there we have our allocation now. So now we've got our allocation between in a similar format as our expense allocation here. So if we, and then we can collapse this, and that'll give us our nice shortened report as we see here. So we don't have the exact same report that we would have here because again, it's not by function, but it's by nature of expense categories. But we do have this nice short report given just these 2 columns, and then we can easily break out the more information if this plus button would work properly by giving the more detail with it. I think I see why it's not working. If I expanded this column to show the entire word here, that's what seemed to be freezing it up. So I expanded the length by expanding the length like so. And now it seems the button is now working for us. So this is a nice report because if you actually have QuickBooks open, you can say, hey, here it is. And if they want more detail, you just can go boom. And then you could show them more detail on the expense categories there. Now, if you're not in QuickBooks, then of course you want to run this report and then run something like this report as well, or even possibly modify these expenses to basically look something like that. And by exporting to Excel, you can make it in this format as well if you so choose.